Hey guys, I'm Cassim.
And I'm Fiona Nova.
And you're listening to the Cream Team Dream Stream, sponsored by the fine folks at heartaudiocables.com.
Use code KWIO at checkout at heartaudiocables.com to get 15% off your entire order.
That's right. And we're also available wherever you listen to your podcasts, including Apple and Spotify.
Thanks for listening.
Great work.
Hell yeah.
That made me come.
All right, guys, welcome to the Cream Team Dream Stream. We are 2/3 of the team. Fiona's on vacation. She's in New York and parts unknown.
Who knows?
Who knows, dude? She's on fee time, and that's all we can say. We're happy to be here and give you 66.67% of what you're used to every week.
Yeah.
Good morning, good afternoon. Obviously, the stream is brought to you by heartaudiocables.com. Promo code QUIO. Keep that sponsor happy. Keep the ship running. Use that promo code. Get yourself some high-end audio interconnects. Maybe even get yourself a Cream Team Heart Audio t-shirt. Use that promo code. Size up. That's what I recommend. Case, how was your weekend?
Not too bad. I watched all of the Fallout series. The binging.
Oh, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I would like to get your sort of non-spoilery review, and I can give you mine on Civil War, the movie.
Oh, that I'm even more curious about, honestly.
Yeah. What do you think of, we have a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. Obviously, a lot of news in the last week, especially since we missed last week's pod. But yeah, let me know what you thought of Fallout, because I've watched the first episode twice. I watched it once with us and then once with Ashley.
Yeah, many creamies saw the first episode using our totally legal means. I thought it was great. I had no expectations. I think I tend to see trailers now and they kind of just wash over me. I think especially because I think people have a point that Netflix shows kind of have a similar look, and also trailers are all cut like the exact same way. So I was kind of like, it's another streaming video game show. Hopefully it's not like another Halo, but I don't think it was at all. I think I don't know. It really hums along. The guy the guy who I mostly know from as like a religious preacher, what's his name? The buddy character.
Walton Goggins?
Yes, that actor is kind of great in everything and is really good in this. Also the makeup they have for the ghoul, I think whoever did that, even though it's a little CGI on the nose, like it works shockingly well given that he's like a, creature feature face the whole time. So I would highly recommend. The writing can be a little like, there's times where I think they can't decide if the characters are completely idiotic or like sort of savvy. And sometimes that makes them make some decisions where you're like, huh? I thought they were just smart. But that's like my only real complaint, which isn't even really a complaint, because I think they're just trying to balance like the humor and the plotting and everything else.
That's great to hear. I was, before I even sat down to watch it, I was curious on what the tone was going to be, because it's got a campiness, the IP has a campiness to it. And then I watched the pilot and I was really delighted in how sort of violent and dark it got at times. And I really enjoyed that. Couldn't agree more about Walton Goggins. I only saw him in the pilot as the ghoul, but I thought that scene was my favorite scene in the whole episode. He's really cool. The makeup looks great, and sort of gives him, I don't know, he sort of has this like twang about him that really lends itself to the character, especially in the Righteous Gemstones. He has that sort of like, and it really works in this show, at least in the pilot. And so I'm excited to kind of get through the rest of the series. Do you prefer the binge, I guess, to the weekly?
Kendall and I are kind of perpetual bingers. I honestly prefer the weekly because it forces me to not do it. If it's there, I will stay up till 4 a.m. for like 3 nights in a row and just watch it. Unfortunately, that's the way my brain works. And also, now that I'm older, I think I don't need to sleep as much, so I can just really fill my head with trash till late into the night.
That's awesome. Yeah, I prefer a weekly. It's tough for me to sort of get. I feel also the conversation from a week to week is fun in a show. I like that about Shogun. Ashley prefers, I feel like she prefers a binge. She loves Shogun, but I'll be honest with you, it's been a slog trying to get her to sit down and watch an episode like the day or the day after it comes out.
Yeah.
She has like some weird aversion to this incredible TV show. And then when she's watching it, she loves it. It's just tough to get her to like set aside an hour. I think
I'm 1 or 2 episodes behind now. I won't give any spoilers, but there's a moment where a character slips that kind of took Kendall and I out of it a little bit. Like, I don't mean that the writing is slipping, like a character literally slips, and it just it felt so silly and out of nowhere that I think we're gonna go back to it for sure, but it like took the wind out of our sails on the show for a little bit, even though it's very good.
It's very good. It was sort of an unexpected moment. I think it does lend itself to, and it is kind of poetic in a way. That particular character really sort of like was very into the idea of like doing big things, you know, and like following in it, like keeping his father's legacy going. And there was, you know, really, it was a really, I might be spoiling it too much, but
I can see what you're saying. I thought it was I got where they were coming from, but something about the execution is just like, what? Really?
It was a little silly. It was like something I've done in my backyard.
Yeah.
I have like wet stones that grow like moss on them, and the same things happen to me.
It was a backyard plot point in the middle of like this operatic epic show.
Yeah, so fucking epic. I really love the lead in that show, Cosmo Jarvis, which is 2 names from the Marvel universe, by the way, put together.
Yeah,
that actor's really good. I really want to see him in more stuff. By the way, we're in the Resident Evil 4 category. A lot of you are like, "Oh, that's just a leftover." No, we're bringing you the horror of the news. Is what we're doing today.
I do that every time I change the category. It's just I never remember to switch it back.
I do that all the time. I'll tell you about Civil War.
Yes, please.
Without spoiling too much. I think it definitely delivered. I feel like if you're going into this movie and trying to find some deeper meaning or some sort of like some theme that you can apply. I mean, it's really just all left on the screen. It does stay. I saw somebody in the comments saying it kind of sticks with you. It's unsettling. I think that's what stuck with me. There is just this very like, man, I know this is like a movie and it's a lot of like potentially far out plot points, but it's like we could get here, and that's part of what's unsettling. But I thought it was really well executed. I thought the last act of the movie was like really engaging. I thought the whole thing was engaging. One of the best scenes was a scene that I think you see in the trailer with Jesse Plemons' character. I thought that whole thing was really, really well done, tense, and made me sort of like feel like, you know, this is one of those things. If Fiona was here, I think she, you know, just seeing like crazy white guys that are just like lost it, you know, but all of a sudden, like there's no one to keep them in check. And they're out doing their own thing that crazy white guys would do is super scary. It's our theory of like the white guy in a red pickup, chasing you down a dirt road horror, you know, like that thing is very much at the core of this scene. And as somebody who wasn't born in this country, I think any of you that are also immigrants would probably like take that scene and feel the same way I felt about it. But I would go see it. It is kind of being talked about in both senses online. I think some people really like it, and some people are just like, I don't know, I thought this was going to be something else. I think if you go in and expecting like a movie that's centered around journalists, especially photojournalists, and sort of how a journalist has to engage with war footage and their work, if you consider that your main protagonist and the story unfolding around them, the whole thing makes a lot more sense. And I would recommend you get a thumbs up from Cass.
Well, Cass, if the movie sticks with you, so do cat hairs. Chad is pointing out that you have a cat hair attached to the right side of your chin.
Oh,
I think I wish you have a powerful whisker.
That's one of my regular hairs. This actually could be an Ashley hair. I'll find out later when I clone her.
Double the girlfriend. Yeah. That's exciting.
I got a haircut and it just sort of like slept on it. But this is my new hair.
Wow, look at that.
What do you
natural
think?
Devil formation.
Do you think it's? I told her I didn't want it seem too trendy, but I think this short sides here is saying something else. Like, I'm hip. I should be at Coachella. Yeah. Very cool guy.
You should be watching Kesha come out as a surprise. As we
yeah.
Surprise Kesha. Jesse Plemons, by the way. He was good in it, I'm guessing. Another actor I feel like is good in everything, but has kind of the opposite energy of Walton Goggins in a little bit. Like, he's way more mellow and everything. Both of them, though, a surprising array of roles. Like, they do a lot of comedy. They do a lot of, like, hyper serious action and indie filmy kind of stuff. The Plemons, the Goggins.
Yeah, he's incredible. He, if you haven't seen, what was that movie? Game Night? Is that the Jason Bateman movie? Really great in that. Obviously, I first saw him in Breaking Bad. I think that's where probably most people first saw him. So good at whatever it is he's doing, and it's an energy very like on the opposite side of the spectrum that Walton Goggins is doing. But so effective when he needs to be intimidating. He's the most intimidating. When he's sort of like a rube, he is such a rube. Like, it's really interesting what he can do with that character. I felt like he worked for 4 hours on this movie and like had the best scene. It was really cool.
That's my favorite kind of performance.
It's
end of career
so
Bruce Willis performance.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, he's really great in it. Him and Kirsten Dunst were also in this movie called Power of the Dog, which a lot of people didn't enjoy, but I thought was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like evil Brokeback Mountain.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, I just showed Ashley the movie Call Me by Your Name. Speaking of gay movies with gay characters, have you seen this movie?
I've only seen selections of it.
Yeah, I wonder what selections, because it's got one of the gayest scenes in a movie that I can remember outside of Brokeback Mountain, but also like really good. Really, if we're talking about movies we saw this weekend, shows sort of like when you're young and you're like, you got your first love, or you're just like, don't really know what's going on with your sexuality. Like, this movie really shows the cringy parts in a way. And it's also really sweet. It's really just tainted by the fact that Armie Hammer is in this movie, who's like, who we all think is a certified cannibal.
But who at the time everyone was like, Jesus Christ, he's so hot. Because, I mean, honestly, as far as cannibals go, could there be a better looking cannibal?
I would be honored if he would consume my flesh.
Yeah, I can see why a lot of people want them to eat their legs. Just because, come on, anything looks good in those big hands.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that he's also like American royalty. Like, he's, a scion of a fortune, basically.
Yeah, of the Armand Hammer family. Which is
as close as both of these to a vampire, probably, in our more corporal world.
There is such a different life a lot of these guys have lived, and Armie Hammer definitely looks like the type of guy. I wouldn't be surprised if he's friends with like the Winklevoss. There's like this.
I mean, he played them.
The 6'6" Aryan sort of like uber rich, uber wealthy, in on some Skull and Bones conspiracy stuff. Like this is a group that he runs with that I don't have access to, and quite frankly, they scare me. And he plays a sort of, like rich intellectual guy in this movie. And Timothée Chalamet, I think, comes from a rich family as well, from what Ashley tells me. But they both sort of play these characters that never have ever had to worry about money, and so they just spend their time in the arts, and just like expanding their knowledge, and then get their kicks getting gay with each other, and it's kind of a sweet movie. It's kind of uncomfortable, but this Luca Guadagnino guy that directed it also has this Challengers movie coming out with Zendaya, which is supposed to be pretty good.
Well, he's incredible at capturing the vibe of like a moist Hawaiian shirt. I feel like that whole movie is very wet. Everybody's wet. The grass is wet. The sun is wet.
There's never been more sort of like wet fabric, like fabric pressed against wet skin in a just like, there's just constantly like a little twink boy Chalamet like coming out of a river putting on a Hawaiian shirt. It's just clingy fabric. Dudes with no underwear wearing like really short shorts.
Yeah, walking by cafe, like stone street lined cafes, longing wet looks.
It is the longing wet look. My favorite longing wet look movie. It makes me want to go to Italy, but also 1980s Italy. So it is reminiscent. It is of an era. This movie, and it really captures a vibe, and hopefully the movie with Zendaya has sort of got this same sort of intimate, close, like uncomfortable, like am I gay? Like questioning my own sexuality at the credits. I'll be tuning in for that movie.
Oh, I'm much quieter.
You want to get into some news?
Yes, let's get into some news. Let me just fix a light audio issue. Apparently, I'm super quiet and you're much louder, but I'll fix that while you're talking.
Yeah, we've got since we skipped last week, and this happened right at the sort of I don't know what day it happened, but O.J. Simpson. I don't know. I don't know how to. I saw a sketch about how like people, like a news organization, was gonna like talk about O.J. Simpson dying, and they had trouble framing him up as like a human being. Football player and accused murderer dies,
and an actor for a little while,
and an actor.
Yeah.
It was in the lethal. What was it? Naked Gun.
Naked Gun. He was Lethal Company. He wasn't in that movie.
Hertz Rent-A-Car. He was Lethal Company.
Yeah.
And I saw this article. Basically, the saddest part of this is that the Goldman families, there's no way I think they're going to recoup. There's $114 million. By the way, that's quite a bit of money to be indebted to anyone.
Yeah.
And so what I also heard is that he got, I think it was like 10 or 20 or 30K a month just from his football pension that the Goldmans couldn't touch. So that's why we always saw him golfing and like taking it easy. And it never felt like he was in a rush or doing anything. He was just playing golf on Twitter and sort of living this lie that potentially, like he was not a guy who killed his ex-wife.
He feels like a man who really fell in love with like a country club lifestyle. Like he's just a country club dad that happens to be a for sure murderer.
Yeah. And so it's $20K a month according to Live and Sleazy.
So he's paying out $20K, or I wonder what he did pay them. It only paid the family $133,000 since 1997 out of $114 million. That is crazy.
There was a point where he was like broke, and that's like why he went to jail, because he like broke into some place and like stole a lot of his memorabilia or something like this from people that had it. Isn't that essentially what he went to jail for?
Yeah, I think so.
Which is so at least they got him on something. But he did write this book, and something happened with the rights to the book, but it's called If I Did It. And I have, and you have, a clip from an interview he did where he was promoting this book, where he talks about hypothetically what would have happened the night of. And it's doesn't seem, and you're a good, you're a good human lie detector. You know what it's like to play a character, and maybe you can help me sort of dissect is this a guy talking about a hypothetical, or is this
Yeah.
a guy reliving a memory? And I thought
Let's
this
check it
was
out.
kind of.
I remember this making some waves back in
Yeah.
I wonder if this is 6 years ago or even sooner. Anyway, let's see.
So we kind of hooked up together, and I'm kind of broad stroking this. We go over, get into Bronco and go over.
Let's just go back and do the details. Where did you park?
This is the detail.
You park
In the hypothetical, in the alley.
Right. You park in the alley.
Yeah.
And you put on a wool cap and gloves.
In the hypothetical, I put on
In the
cap and gloves.
Right.
Yeah.
And you reached under the seat for
A knife. I always
In the
keep a
hypothetical.
knife in the car for the crazies and stuff because you can't travel with a gun. And I remember Charlie saying, "You ain't bringing that." And I didn't, right? But I believe he took it.
Charlie took the knife.
Yeah. In the book.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the back gate, you go through the back gate,
Yes.
and it was open or broken or.
I don't recall.
Should drink every
I
time
go
he
to
says
the
in the
front and I'm
hypothetical or
looking
in
to
the
see
book.
what's going on. And I can see that it appears like Nicole had candles all the time. She really did, to keep her overhead down, I think. And music was on, and while I was there, a guy shows up. You know?
So Ron Goldman comes in the back gate.
Yeah, a guy that I really didn't recognize. I may have seen him around, but I really didn't recognize him to be anyone. And
nobody.
And in the mood I was in, I started having words with him.
He says to you, "I just came by to return a pair of glasses. Judy left them at the restaurant."
I don't recall in the book.
Words to that effect. Yes.
And he was
I
on.
don't know if I believed it or didn't believe it. It was pretty much immaterial because, I was more concerned about everything that was going on, and was fed up with it, I guess. And
you get into a fight. Nicole comes out.
a
And
verbal
fight.
Got a little loud, and by that time, Nicole had come out, and we started having words about who is this guy, why is he here, what's going on.
And she says, "This is my house. Get the F out of here."
Yes, and which I didn't like because, once again, this is the same person, and if you read the book, you'll see some things that happened in the 2 weeks leading up to this that were very, very irritating.
In the book.
And I think Charlie
Hypothetically,
had
in the
followed
book.
this guy in, wanted to make sure it was no problem, and he brought the knife. As things got heated, I just remember Nicole fell and hurt herself. And
He stopped saying
this guy
hypothetically a
kinda
while
got
ago.
into a karate thing. And I said, "Well, you think you can kick my ass?" And I remember I grabbed the knife. I do remember that portion, taking a knife from Charlie. And to be honest, after that, I don't remember, except I'm standing there and there's all kind of stuff around and
Stuff?
Good stuff.
What kind of stuff?
Stuffing.
blood and stuff around.
Human
I hate to
stuffing.
say this, but this is hypothetical. I'm
Right,
sorry.
right.
I know we got to back up again.
That's okay. I want to back
this
up.
Is hard. This is
This
hard.
is hard, I know. I wanna back
it's
up
hard
to-
try to make people think that I'm.
Oh, it's
Yeah, it's
You wrote in the
hard.
book, I had never
I
seen
can think of a
blood
couple
in my
ways
life.
that could work better than this.
Yes.
You're covered, the scene. Can you describe it?
It's hard for me to describe it. I'm telling you, I don't think any two
I
people.
don't
could
remember
be,
the book that well, is what he's trying to say.
murdered the way they were without everybody being covered in blood. And of course, I think we've all seen the grisly pictures after. So yeah, I think everything was covered, would have been covered in blood.
Okay, well, you want to keep
Yeah.
going?
no, that's good. I thought that was a good representation of. Let me ask you, Case. Does that look like a man who's recounting a fictional story in his head, or
You know,
is that acting?
it does not seem like acting. However, I have to say, OJ might be the ultimate celebrity. Just because whatever celebrity
Go on.
is, whatever fame is, like this weird willingness to just expose yourself for like another round of just eyeballs on you. I guess he desperately needed the money, but he's literally like laundering his murder just back through the news cycle. At that point, I guess just to sell the book. which is such a bizarre. I mean, this is the guy who actually murdered his wife and some guy that was just in his house, which you have to imagine would affect someone emotionally. But in the washing machine that is like going on the news and doing interviews, it just comes off as he's back in like affable entertainer mode, but recounting an actual murder that he did. The amount of the amount of mental schism that is occurring there under pressure from the public eye. I don't even know what the fuck that is, but that is such a strange cultural artifact.
To me, if the like Louvre in the future were to include video clips, like this has to go in there. Like it's just a 7-minute loop that plays alongside the Mona Lisa of just like, there's so much going on in this 7 minutes. There's so much history that's led to this point, and it's so absurd that this guy that somehow got off a very sort of obvious murder case that he committed is now recounting it. And the only thing that's sort of like keeping him detached from the actual memories, he just keeps saying hypothetical and then laughing and then saying, because this is hard. The only thing that's keeping him is saying hypothetical, and he's essentially recounting this memory. And that obviously that's like what's the news anchor and the reporter and the journalist is sort of intending for that to happen. Seems like a really obvious trick that he either doesn't know is happening or must know, but still is playing ball to sell copies of his book.
I think he must have been legally counsel that he could get away with doing that, basically. I mean, he obviously comes off like a psychopath there, but I think so does the interview. I mean, so does the whole thing existing, kind of. Is like a weird form of just societal psychopathy that is very difficult to unwind.
Him. Yes, it's an indictment on him, U.S. like us as consumers of media, the media. It's like all these things, and everyone is guilty of something. Like we're guilty of something just by watching it. Like it makes me feel like shit. And there was another clip. I didn't put it in, but there was a juror that one of the jurors essentially just said, we got OJ off because this is our payback. She was an African American woman. This is our payback for Rodney King.
I don't know if that's what Rodney would have wanted, but maybe he wouldn't have given a shit either way.
Right.
I don't think Rodney would care, honestly.
No, I don't know. It's a shame.
But hey, it makes for great TV. And, some people would argue there's a straight line from the OJ car chase footage to like MILF Manor, that he is the true king of reality TV. Right. He's the one who started it all. And I kind of agree. I think we have to at least say what you will about him. He spawned a lot of really bad reality TV shows that we now all still watch.
Yep. And he's essentially made another class of celebrity, which is a good segue into this Michael J. Fox story, which is a little bit further down on the rundown, but I think it connects in a way where Michael J. Fox recently was interviewed, and he like throws some shade to modern celebrities.
Oh my God, Michael's going after him. Michael J. Fox says, we used to bust our ass to be famous and you had to be talented, but now what's that dance step and you're the most famous person in the world? Oh man, he's sounding a little cantankerous here, I gotta say.
He does sound, he's got a little bit of the boomeritis, and which is like, amongst a long list of health conditions that he has. But generally, my thoughts on Michael J. Fox is like just a guy who's doing his best, who we all like have such warm, fuzzy memories.
Oh yeah,
of such a hard worker, like him doing double duty on his sitcom and then going to shoot Back to the Future. Like I understand what he's saying. Celebrity was a different thing.
Oh, for sure.
For Michael J. Fox to like have to come out and make a statement that it's different now is like, what's he trying to accomplish other than a feeling of superiority, which is like, do you need that? I mean, we gave you an honorary Oscar years ago. Like
you were on Spin City for 5 seasons.
Yeah.
What more do you need, Michael? Maybe
you can
more
do
than
no
that.
wrong, says S1000. I think I think this is like it's an annoying sort of like slight blemish on my otherwise like, fuzzy, warm memories of Michael J. Fox in my heart. And, but yeah, I actually think that
it kind of endears me to him more. It's such like a classic, like, just like older actor response. I don't think he's wrong in like a broad sense. Like you're saying, it's just it's different. I don't know. I'm sure there's just as many talented people around. The gatekeeping is totally different. It's just a different media ecosystem than it used to be. But in broad strokes, I think he's right.
He's absolutely right. I think it's the need to like feel like he has to say it because what is he accomplishing? He's not stopping TikTok celebrities from being TikTok or YouTubers from being anything. All it does is just make him look a little grumpy. Is that what he wants? Like, I think there is sort of this unspoken thing that's like, celebrities now, most of them are celebrities for like kind of weird reasons and or not because they're great at the thing that they are good at. Like, this is where it connects to the Kardashians and OJ and Robert Kardashian. It's like there is a different path forward. And this is more of an indictment on media and how Discovery Networks became who they became, because they just put out a bunch of like reality shows for us to watch. We watched the fuck out of it, and then Discovery and David Zaslav bought everyone else and put all actual art in the ground. And so now we watch My 600-Pound Life and like these things, and the Kardashians that's
Temptation,
all
Love
TV.
Island 6.
Yeah.
I mean, back in he has a point.
Fox, we agree.
I mean, even in the 90s, to be a reality TV star, you had to kill your wife and a waiter. That's so much harder than just doing a TikTok dance. Like, I mean, say what you will. That took some effort. And then he had to drive a whole car for like a day.
And then he had to like dictate a book to somebody who wrote his book. It was like work that had to be done back in the day.
It's given me Scorsese Marvel movies aren't cinema vibes, where again I just basically agree, but also I'm like, I mean, you're just stirring up controversy for the sake of it. But also I think both of them are allowed to. Like, he's got, if anyone has a right to complain about the future, I think it's Michael J. Fox. He was promised a better future where technology is both way more advanced and less advanced. You get fired by your boss over a bunch of auto printing faxes at your house and there's flying cars. Instead, he's stuck in this weird TikTok future. I'm sure it sucks.
Absolutely. What a fantastic place in pop culture he's carved out for himself. and it's, it is sort of a shame that I think also in that article, he had to sort of quit the series that he was on because he can't memorize lines anymore, which is really sad. So
That's too bad.
I feel like part of him has a resentment of, why am I like doing my art when no one gives a shit about it? I think and now my body won't even let me do my art, and everyone is watching folks on TikTok and online celebrities become a thing. So I get where he's coming from. I don't know if it's necessary to think out loud.
I think as you get older, it's very easy to focus on how much terrible media there is, and there's definitely more than ever. But I'm sure if we go back to the 80s and 90s, we can we could run literally 24/7 unwatchable sitcoms from that period, some of which he's in. So there's always good and bad.
There was always bad stuff, no matter what decade you're in. And even in just like the time I've been online, like from the 2010s to now, I feel like I could easily take the route of Michael J. Fox just from the point of view of an old over-the-hill YouTuber and talk about the new YouTubers and how everyone sucks. Like, there's always an angle you can take. What's the point? It makes you look grumpy. It makes you look resentful of the business that made you successful. So,
I've been watching Warrior, also another thing I've slowly been watching. That it's on Netflix. Great. It's great, but that also reminds me, like, I think that show was coming out during a period where there was so much prestige TV that it kind of just sort of floated by. I mean, also people are racist and they didn't want to watch an Asian cast. Probably could be another big part of it, unfortunately.
Sure.
But I do think it's weird that now we do have kind of vastly higher quality shows in greater numbers that you can watch, and we have a huge catalog of them that you can watch, but also the majority of attention, to Michael J. Fox's point, his eyeballs looking at people like, learning how to do the new sideways moonwalk.
Yeah, which is not easy to do.
It's hard as shit. I can't do it either.
I've been trying.
Yeah.
Look, I think over time our attention spans have become much shorter, and I think it's not like news to say like to get through one episode of a show without looking at your phone once it's like a challenge for me. So that's sort of my gauge when a show is good, is like I don't reach for my phone. And it's crazy that we used to just like do that without ever picking anything up, and we just engage with media for like hours at a time without but now I have to know like what's going on TikTok. Like there's this whole Iran Israel thing that's been going on.
It's one of my least favorite trends.
It's one of the
honestly,
worst
it's cringe.
trends.
It's one of the cringiest trends.
World War III cringe. I just found myself glued to. I found like this random guy on TikTok who's like just repeating what CNN is saying, but he's doing it in his own bite-sized way. And for some reason, it's easier for me to just like go on this guy's page every hour and just see the 2-minute blurb that he says, instead of trying to go to CNN, which is just like drawing out this conflict as long as possible to retain as many viewers as possible. And so like in my head, I'm like, man, what's going on with Iran? And I'm watching Fallout and I'm like, what's going on with Iran? And I see my mind wandering, and it all somehow always connects back to my phone. And
it was weird binging Fallout in the midst of all of these Twitter threads about like who you got in World War III. Comment a smiley emoji for Iran. Comment a thumbs up for Israel and the U.S.
Yeah, are we smarter for this? Are we more connected? Is this better to be connected in this way? Or does it give everyone sort of like this overhanging anxiety that really doesn't do any good to our mental health? I don't know where we are.
My Twitter, I've like pretty much had to abandon looking at Twitter because it just like the way it was talking when like the invasion of Palestine was first happening. I thought felt like I was getting some novel information from Twitter. Like there were people in the middle of the conflict posting that you weren't seeing in mass media. But it feels like over the last couple of months, it has degraded into just this bizarro blue checkmark engagement farming fest, even for war. Because I keep seeing all these threads that are literally like that, like, comment 666 for the U.S., comment, Blumpy time for Iran. And it's just, like, it's incomprehensible in a sense, but then it's just filled with comments, and it seems like half of them are probably bots. It's pretty messy.
There's a lot of bots. There's a lot of people who are just having their first opinion in their life, and they get to share it, and they get to shout it out on in the world. It's like it's a 14-year-old that just got their iPhone, spends a day on TikTok, and now they're an expert in sort of like the crisis in the Middle East, and decide that they get to have a say in what's going on. So throughout all that noise, is there a signal in there? Like, it's cool that, like you're saying, that you can tune into Twitter and get on the ground sort of like unfiltered news that the mainstream media isn't showing, but at the expense of like all the other stuff at the same time. Like, it's crazy that my newsfeed can be that Iran's launched a bunch of cruise missile and drones at Israel, and then the next thing is Drake's newest diss, and then the thing after that is just like a dude falling down some stairs. Like, it's really wild, and somebody, there's like a bigger thing going on here that I don't have the mental ability to like concentrate and distill down, but it's a little bit of a connectedness and knowing what's going on in the world at the expense of mental health, anxiety, and our attention spans being short.
Well, Twitter used to have the advantage of, if you followed a person, you have a familiarity with their work, and if it's coming from a journalist, there's a certain level of trust you can place in it, at least to be like, this is probably real, or this is probably not overly sensationalized, depending on who it is, or knowing how sensationalized it is, depending on who you're following. And I think for me, at least, Twitter's just become this, static just gray kind of area of just faceless fucking weirdos with blue check marks. I think if you still followed exactly the right people and you went to like follows only, you could probably still get like drip fed some interesting information, but I never took the time to do that. So it used to legitimately recommend you some stuff. TikTok, I think, kind of can do that now, but there's just not that same level of context in knowing who posted it, because you're just kind of seeing this feed of just sensational images, some of which are definitely stuff that is worth seeing, but it's kind of without that built-in, I guess, context of the personality posting it in a lot of cases.
Yes. Yeah. There are nuggets to be gleaned off of TikTok. I don't know what the ratio is. For me, it feels like 1 out of 30 to 40 talks I'm being served. And in my head, I'm like, well, that's one piece of like interesting news or an interesting take about this interesting subject. But then what I'm not thinking about is the 39 other mindless dribble that's been sort of like forced into my ocular sockets and now I've become dumber. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know if you and Kendall do this, but in bed at night, do you guys have we're sitting here, but we're each on our phones on TikTok?
Absolutely. There's usually like a good 5 to 10 minute period of phone cycling our brains off.
Yeah. It's like comforting, right? And I don't want to admit this, but it's like part of the night that I enjoy.
Yeah.
It's like sitting there scrolling, sharing TikToks, like, oh, look at this cat, and sending that to her, scrolling past the Iron Dome defense system, Drake's diss. It's just like a weird, it's a weird soup.
Kai Cenat reacting to Iran's diss against Israel. Yeah. Maybe we should just let Mr. Beast, we give one side Mr. Beast and we give the other side some other comparable influencer like Jake Paul or Logan Paul. And they just have the war online and they see who can get more likes and follows. And we just have to abide by the result. We just draft our own social media personalities.
I don't know what side. And the other part is like, I don't know what side of that I would want to be on. I feel like I could make a case for either one. If I'm on the Logan Paul side, I know I'm getting action. I'm getting wrestling. I don't know if I can handle Mr. Beast's cadence or edit style, even if I agree with his politics more.
I launched 1,000 drones carrying missiles directly at Israel from a country they are unaligned with. Can I start World War III? We're gonna find out.
Yeah, that's so good. All right, let's change topics because I feel like this could just be a whole pod on its own. I really do. Billy D. Williams. This is just a quick one, okay? And Billy D. Williams thinks blackface is okay. This is just something I don't know if there's a whole lot to think about here, but he was on the Bill Maher. I don't know if you've been seeing a lot of.
Oh my God! What a font! What a repository for just opinions is the Bill Maher show.
Yeah, he's got. I don't know if you saw. Richard Dreyfuss.
Shit, it's so long. It's an hour and 25 minutes. I wonder what if there's anywhere to find it.
No, yeah, you don't have to play the video, but essentially. It quotes it right above there where he asks him about blackface and he just thinks any actor should just be able to do blackface. And so, I thought that was interesting.
I'll read the quote really quick. I thought it was hysterical. I loved it. I love that kind of stuff.
He loves it, dude.
I love that. Look, for me, I love that kind of stuff.
Billy D. Williams, man.
I mean, is he allowed to? I guess he's allowed to, right? I certainly don't agree with it, but it's Billy D. Williams,
Billy D's allowed to have an opinion about, and some might say his opinion counts more than mine.
Certainly more than mine.
He's. I saw that as well, Huey. The other bit of news which I had in our last week pod that never aired was, or that never even started, was that. Steve-O's was gonna go on Bill Maher's pod, but Bill Maher refused to not smoke weed in front of Steve-O, who's a sober guy. It's like Bill Maher couldn't not smoke a joint for an hour or however long the pod is, and so Steve-O couldn't go on his pod. And it's like, to me, look, I understand if Steve-O asks you to come to his pod and you're a guest, you're invited, and you want to smoke weed, and you're like, I won't show up unless I get to smoke weed. Okay, like it's still a weird take, but if you want Steve-O to be a guest on your pod, and you know the dude's sober, and it's not like he's gonna relapse by you smoking weed right there, but like you're 3 feet away from him, and you're smoking a joint, probably all pod long. Like if the guy who's gonna be a guest and probably help his numbers a little bit, if he's gonna be a guest and you can't not smoke a joint,
that's pretty
kind of a weird. Like Bill Maher, not only just like one of the weirdest figures, like pundits we have. I don't even want to call him a comedian. Just one of the weirdest looking guys out there currently.
A super strange guy who's not very funny, but has had a long and storied career in political comedy. I think he's a big reason political comedy kind of has a bad name as being deeply unfunny. Although there's other options, obviously. But like, he has just been phoning it in for like 2 decades now, just doing like the lowest hanging jokes, and he still is doing it. He still has a successful career. I've never quite understood it. It's one of the people my dad used to watch, and I would just be like, what is my dad getting out of this?
There was a second, I don't know if it was probably in the early aughts where like maybe in 2010s people would be like, Bill Maher had a great guest on last night. You should tune in. He had guys from both sides on, and they had an intelligent, engaging conversation. Now it's just Richard Dreyfuss slipping onto the floor off the chair. It's Billy D. Williams saying blackface is okay. Bill Maher's stoned the whole time, and he's delivering everything with like, I don't know, the most arrogance. Like, if there's one guy who's saying the most, like you said, low hanging, easy to make joke, but with the most arrogance, it's gotta be Bill Maher. It's gotta be that guy.
I mean, he used to, when people thought he was great, he'd have like Ben Affleck and Donald Rumsfeld on, and they'd like go at it. And Ben would be like, well, I hear what you're saying, Donald, but actually I think it'd be good if maybe we didn't kill people. The audience would be like, woo!
Yeah.
I don't know.
Those were the days.
Those were the days.
Donald Rumsfeld would have his finger on a red button, and Ben Affleck would be like, no.
Convince me not to press it.
That was an episode. Yeah. It made for great TV, and maybe it's because it was on HBO and they were at a nice big table. It felt more official. It's just I don't know. It's just like, it's not the same now. It seems like he goes, well, if everyone else is doing these podcasts and making more money than me, why don't I do it?
That's a good Bill Maher impression. I know it's a light impression, but you really embodied him for a second there.
I started that with thinking, should I engage with this? No, don't. Bail. I don't know what he sounds like. So I just move my body.
Yeah, that's basically it. He really does have the energy of like an older brother who's like in college and you're in high school, and he just is very obviously trying to impress you with his attitude, but it's like incredibly see-through. Like, oh yeah, maybe I won't not smoke weed in front of you even though our parents are home, because I'm kind of in college now.
That's such a great call. He has the energy of your friend's older brother who talks about like all the pussy that he gets, but is actually still a virgin.
Although Bill Maher notoriously, apparently has a very large penis, is a thing I've heard via cultural osmosis. Unfortunately, blessings aren't handed out in regard to who deserves them, I guess. But he's also a huge user of like Hollywood prostitutes, basically. He's got like a big open thing of just like spending millions of dollars on prostitutes.
I find that admirable. I like a guy who's open about his like sexual deviance, and also sex work is. I'm also pro sex work, but yeah, also like that face and that hair, like he's got to farm that out. He's got to outsource his sex.
It makes you respect the sex workers, if anything, because they're dealing not only with his big, probably ugly penis, but just the attitude that comes with it. Who knows what kind of material he's running past these girls. He's giving them all of his Muslim-aimed jokes about the Middle East conflict.
he's workshopping his Islamophobia on the prostitutes.
20 minutes on like how shawarma smells bad.
dude.
Well, just
Bill
lazily
Maher.
jamming you with a forearm.
He does. If his nose is any indication, I feel like his penis has a similar shape. And I don't want to like make fun of people's noses as a owner of a large.
That's a compliment
nose.
to all of us, to all you large nose folks.
I feel like his nose could just be in porn, just the nose.
There's probably a genre for that.
There is.
Big nose, tiny girl.
I bet if you were to plug in "not safe for work 411" into Reddit, there would be a subreddit just for that. And yes, I know that there's a "not safe for work 411." Okay. Oh, this one is sort of on the. This was a story last week, but I did want to talk about The Rock saying that he almost regretted endorsing Biden, and it sowed division.
Ooh, is he
and also woke culture bugs him.
Is he going to the right finally to make that big presidential run? It would kind of make sense.
It seems to me, and those of you that were sort of like, he notoriously was like apolitical for such a long time, and I think it's because he understood, at least in his head, to bring the most money to a box office event, you have to get both sides of the aisle into the idea of your movie. And so he just sort of like stayed out of it. And then like during the last election, he like made a little bit of a move, which is what he's referring to here, where he essentially endorsed Biden, and it was sort of like, ooh, The Rock, because at the time, everyone was still hot for The Rock. The Rock's dropped a little bit since then. I'd say a lot of bits. The Rock stock dropped. But back then, we were really into the idea of what does The Rock have to say? This guy who is just blockbuster hit after blockbuster hit. Where does he stand in all this? Is he going to run for president? And for a while, we thought maybe he was, and he sort of took like this. We thought it was more center, but then he like leaned into the Joe Biden thing. And so recently, in an interview, he says he didn't say he regrets, but that was his overall, I think, point, was that he wishes that he didn't sow that division into America. It's a little arrogant, okay, to think that maybe you're part of you are the wedge that broke this country in half, when it was a combination of many things.
I hope he thinks it's him. That'd be pretty great.
Yeah. And then he does that thing where we hope most people just like never get to that part of their sentence, which is woke culture bugs.
Yep, it was the wind up, and then unfortunately the complete follow through. We just need a new word. We got to lose woke. I think it's had a good 8-9 year run. I think the right needs a new word, the left needs a new word, whatever.
Totally. Because it's just not what people think, and it's become such a buzzword that's been a clear delineation in which side you're on. Either you're woke or you're unwoke. You're either based or not based. Like it's a version. It's just a clear line in the sand. And I think he feels like, I don't know. Do you think, and the question I'm going to pose to you is, do you think he would and still wants to run for president? Do you think he's positioning himself for that? Or do you think that he's leaning into the more conservative base because his box office numbers have been dwindling and he maybe needs to drum up that side of business?
Yeah, I think at this point it does feel like he's a little less likely to actually become a political force. We can hope. But I do think like he's gone back to wrestling, and wrestling is kind of popping off right now. I think largely because it's honestly on a streaming service where people can watch way more of the pay-per-views way more cheaply. But anyway, he came back to wrestling, and he's done really well there. Like he came off to his fan base there extremely well, which I'm guessing could be a little galvanizing, possibly for his movie career. He's about to try to release like a slightly more serious but still action-focused movie. Well, somewhat action-focused, about like a UFC fighter, I think. I can't remember the name of it, but he's doing like a slightly more serious role as like a drug-addicted UFC fighter, like sort of a biopic kind of deal.
Yes, this is his movie where he's trying to prove he can act because everyone does not believe that.
Yeah, he can perform. He can definitely perform. A little bit less about acting, I think. I'm guessing it's all about money. I think also people were mad at The Rock for him being really boring on the Joe Rogan podcast a while ago. I kind of remember that little piece of news. So I think maybe he just is like a heat-seeking missile for the center. Like he just wants to say the least controversial thing, but with a lot of energy.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned his Joe Rogan appearance, which is like wildly believed to be one of the most uninteresting guests of all time on the Joe, and which is a long list of folks. But he just provided no real insight into like actual thoughts or feelings, and tried to play everything down the middle as much as possible. And I've been saying, and I feel like I'm gonna pat myself on the back here, but I've thought he probably peaked in when was San Andreas? I think he peaked.
That's a high watermark. I agree.
I think he peaked in San Andreas, that earthquake movie with Alexander Daddario. I think that was it. And then ever since, he's sort of been on that was like our last big spoonful of rock that felt like, all right, I can muscle this down, pun intended. And without it feeling like, all right, I've had enough of this. Now every rock movie seems to be like, would you like another spoonful of rock? And it doesn't. I don't. And I think he's realized that if he's got a team, I feel like they need to position him to like. I guarantee you, his team's like, can we get an A24 script for The Rock? I know this sounds crazy, but he really wants to like sink his teeth into a role. And unfortunately, he's just built his body into this massive skyscraper of a human being that it would be tough for him to do anything that wasn't like a la The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke. Or
he looks like Skeletor got like 50% of his skin back. Like he's so bony but huge. It's very bizarre looking in a way that I kind of enjoy, but it's like a lot. It's a lot to take in.
It's a lot of man, and I don't know. I think I've personally thought that obviously Dave Bautista's the best wrestler turned actor. Now I refer to him as an actor and not a former wrestler. In my eyes, The Rock will always perpetually be a wrestler who's acting.
Yeah, and
I think he wants to shed that. And it's either going to be he's going to run for office, which doesn't feel like he wants to do, especially with his stock kind of low, or he's just going to go back to wrestling and churn out like really bad Jungle Cruise movies.
I would be happy with that if he just goes back to wrestling and only makes Jungle Cruise movies, like 8 Jungle Cruise movies. That would kind of be the ultimate swan song for The Rock. He has been great in wrestling though, and I hope he sticks with that because he's a natural born all-time great pro wrestler. If he just kind of leans into that, he can ride it out into the sunset.
His skills, his stat levels are all maxed out when it comes to wrestling. Like he crushes the sound bites. He does the promos. He's a great actual physical wrestler, it seems like. Although the people's elbow is just one of the worst moves in wrestling. I'm sorry. But like the fact that like he sold that as a move is like incredible. It does everything he needs to do, and within his acting skill set. If it's that and voicing the voice of Maui and like all the Moana movies, I think I'm okay with where The Rock sits in our popular culture.
I will say something about The Rock as a centrist Republican presidential candidate does sound like it would win to me. At Rock the Democrat running, 50-50. Rock the Republican running, feels like it's probably just going to happen, unfortunately.
I think for sure, as a conservative, he runs more center, and conservatives love voting for a big, strong, buff guy.
Absolutely.
Okay? It's such a homoerotic thing too, but like when we go, hey, remember when Arnold was the governor and he fucking rocked? People think that's what would happen. And they're going to use Arnold as a sort of like barometer for voting for The Rock. I think plus he wears a lot of camo. Those guys love camo.
Absolutely. It's like he has to shift it. He's so in the middle that he just has to shift 2 degrees to the right. And he can just be like the ultimate Republican. Rock-publican? Oh my God. And that's built in. Rock Democrat is nothing but Rock Republican. Now we're talking.
Make the posters, guys. A lot of you could be on his team right now. He just needs to be like one click more center than Mitt Romney, and I may be okay with it.
Yeah. I guess you would never get a Trump versus Rock debate, I guess. No, you might I guess it would have to be a primary challenge from The Rock, and then you could get a Trump versus Rock promo.
Dude, that would be bigger than Logan Paul, Mike Tyson. A Rock Trump debate would be the lowest point in our country mixed with the highest viewed event in our country.
But a Rock Trump boxing match would be even higher. And I think Trump could actually take it, but you have to make the kind of boxing match where there are no rules. Like, he just gets to cheat. It's basically pro wrestling. He just has 20 run-ins from like a million paid assassins.
Exactly.
It's just clearly a huge man in a Trump wig. If he was like the Snidely Whiplash of boxing, it's kind of an old reference, but he's just sort of cheating his way through the event, I would absolutely watch that.
Dude, Biden comes up out of a coffin like Undertaker with the big dome.
But he's actually dead. The corpse just falls straight out.
They got him marionetted up there. Wagging his finger at Iran.
Marionette Biden, I would vote for over current Biden. If it's just a rotting corpse getting fucking carted around. Those are politics I can believe in.
Absolutely. Oh God. Fuck. We've spent so much time talking about it's almost the whole pod. I did want to run one story by you.
Yes, please.
Because that I can't get through most of my week without shitting on Tom Cruise. But there is some news that Dakota Fanning says every year she gets a birthday present from Tom Cruise ever since she starred in War of the Worlds. And this has sort of created a lot of folks in the chat and the threads. And I honestly, and I know I go off on this rant often, but still so many people are divided on Tom Cruise as a person because of things like this. And I just want to remind you guys, this is a very carefully curated image that he's put in front of you. He has an assistant the assistant is the one that's probably more thoughtful. Tom Cruise has discretionary funds that are just like, make me look like the nicest guy in Hollywood, and all this sort of like a bunch of people working in the background, all Scientologists, by the way, to help curate this nice guy image. Meanwhile, his money and all the money that he makes, a large percentage goes to a cult organization in Scientology. But yet every time I go to Reddit and an article like this goes out, which I think is plugged and put into the media by his people, is every time that goes out there, people go like, God, what does Scientology have on this guy? Because he seems like such a cool, down-to-earth guy. I can separate the man from his religion. And I just want to keep pushing back on that and saying, no, that's not how I'm going to view it. If that's how you choose to view it, great. But he is actively taking part in a criminal organization, but puts out a hell of a movie. I'll give you that.
I think Top Gun was just so satisfying. It was hard for people to hold on to their revulsion at his general, social politics, I guess. It's not even like conservative politics, just whatever the politics are of defending Scientology. He's been very invested in, obviously. This is somewhat endearing or creepy. I can't quite tell, but I think people forget because he looks, like he looks like younger than he actually is. That he is old enough that if he's met a 10-year-old at some point, in his head, she's still like 14 max, even though it's been 10 years. So I feel like he's got like grandpa energy. Like he's going to keep gifting her like just on the cusp.
It's like a pony. Mm-hmm. Every year he's bringing a live pony to Dakota Fanning.
Yeah, he sends her like a pink iPhone or something every year.
It is. It's super funny that this keeps coming up. I think that I would be willing to bet that Dakota Fanning is not constantly in touch with Tom Cruise. I think people that I know that have sort of interacted with Tom Cruise, are always so swept away by his charisma. And I'm so shocked that people would think that this great actor is really good at making himself look like a nice guy, because it's essentially his whole job is to make people think a certain way about him.
I bet if he's the kind of guy you see 3 times a year, I bet he's great. I bet if you have to see him every day, he's one of the worst.
If you're one of the Scientology folks on the boat, what are they called? They're a Sea Org. You're one of the Sea Org people, and you're like, hey, Tom Cruise, he needs the yacht this weekend. And you're like, your job is to like get the yacht ready for Tom Cruise, and then make sure you don't look at him when he comes in. He's a scary figure, because if he doesn't get his way, heads will roll. The new Tom.
There was that clip of him that was going around over COVID, which also everything that comes out about him does seem to split people. Do you remember that? It was him yelling at someone on the set, being like, "Put the fucking mask on. This is $1 billion. We're trying to keep this town alive."
Exactly. And those folks that are in the chat that are like, oh, we're mad at the guy who's trying to make sure everyone has a job during COVID. Like, those are all, not all, but mostly plants. Like, you would have to be completely naive to think that he doesn't have an army of, and Scientology doesn't have an army of folks in the Reddit thread, like talking him up, being like, yeah, even saying things that like are kind of against Scientology, like, despite what you may think about his religion, the dude's a true action hero. Like, just comments like that, one after another, getting upvoted, it all helps raise his profile, and it gives sort of the illusion that I fall for all the time, that people are arguing about Tom Cruise, when I think it's pretty clear that he's a problematic person, especially when he was like on the Matt Lauer show talking about how prescription drugs aren't cool and how you can just like will your way to like being healthy. It's just
your metachlorians can handle it for you.
Yeah,
your metathetans.
Absolutely based.
If you've ever been on a set, anytime, well, Cassim obviously has. You might disagree though. Every set I've ever been on, if someone is yelling anything at the entire crew to have like a moment, they're almost certainly an asshole. Even if they're as right as you can be, it's like never a great way to handle a whole room of people just trying to do their jobs. To be like, listen up, folks. Prepare to be prepare to download all of my thoughts about how important this moment is.
Yeah, I saw the great quote unquote Michael Bay do that. If he didn't get his peanut butter sandwich and chocolate milkshake at 4:30 every day, there was a meltdown. There was like an unreal amount of anxiety.
Yeah.
Like people were walking on eggshells if this dude didn't get his PB.
Well, he's a job creator, Cass. We're costing the whole city millions if we hold the production up. So it might seem like it's just a peanut butter sandwich, but actually it's a $1 billion peanut butter sandwich.
We need to enable these people to be able to do their jobs despite their huge flaws.
Yeah. Well, since when does enabling have to be a bad thing? You have to enable stuff for it to work at all.
Dude, you're right, man. I've come around on Tom Cruise. All right, that's a pod, dude. I think we did. We got through half of our stuff. Maybe we'll save it for the Patreon this Wednesday. Please come join us, guys. And by the way, if you've been watching on Case's channel, you've gifted a sub or gift a biddies. He's gonna get to those now. But now is a great time to re-up, get your resubs going, give a gifted sub to a poor badgeless soul in the chat. And I'm going to see you guys Wednesday for more X-Men. By the way, this X-Men show has been one of the best animated shows. I'd say it's on par with Invincible. It's that good. It could even be slightly better depending on the episode you're watching. So I highly recommend you join us on the Patreon. After the Patreon shows, we've been watching X-Men 97.
Is that coming out weekly? Or did they drop all of it? Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, it's weekly.
I don't mind like the 3-episode drop and then the weekly drip or whatever, like releasing in chunks, like 3.
I actually, really like the batch release in the beginning. They sort of get you invested in what's going on, and then the weekly drip. The binge is like talked about feverishly for like a week, and then it's out into the ether, and people sort of forget it. And it's a lot of work. It's like it's like 2 years of work for us to consume in a week. Like I had a weird relationship with the binge, but I would be guilty I would be remiss if I said I wasn't guilty of that.
Guilty of the binge.
I'm guilty of the binge, dude. Yeah, we're watching Fallout, Dano. We just watched the pilot, so since it's a binge, it's not one of those things we can really watch week to week because people like to watch at their own pace.
Yeah, Skate and Eric, I also binged it, and I also thought pretty good. Pretty darn good. All right, well, it's time to punish you all for subbing to me by rapping at you, I guess.
Oh, hell yeah.
Holy shit, this beat's real fast. All right, whatever. Wado, wado. Damn, I like this song too much to even rap over it.
It's just such a classic fucking theme. All right.
Let's thank some subs. They've been coming in. There's only a couple, so this will only take a second. Let's fucking power through it. X-Men coming off the top, so it's time to slam it. 17 months coming in from just some addict, but I'm addicted to this. Uncle Phil 2K with the easy 100 bits. Here we go. Yes. Do not get bent, but I'm bending metal like I'm underwent trend. That's Magneto flows with that tier 1 month. Here we go. Hype train level 1, fast, not slow. Microphone 900. You know they gifted something. 750 bits. Bitch, they never frontin'. Beam up with 1 bit. They killing me with that shit, but they bring it right back with the easy 100 bits. Uh-oh, here's the final boss, and you know I'm not talking about The Rock. He's coming in hard with the metal sauce. You know it's a bit of metal chaos. That's community sub. Yes, 1 gift. Still drumming this shit. Metal chaos, also 3 bits. But Big J Dub with 100 bits. Oh my god, and finally, there's the last one. It's Entity. 10,011 with 5 community subs.
Oh, and one more, Lord
Servo with 100 bits. 100 bits from Lord Servo, and we'll call it there. Thank you all so much for watching. Cass, thank you for enduring this
Thank you, guys.
X-Men rhyme session. Did you see? Last thing. Did you see Drake? You saw Drake's response?
I did. Yeah, we'll have to cover that on the Patreon.
If you want to know who won,
pretty good response.
Pretty good response. We'll tell you who won on the Patreon.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, have a good one. I'm gonna find someone to raid.